Hi guys, thanks for joining me. This is the first video I filmed in my new office, and I didn't deliberately dress to match the wallpaper. I should just point that out. I dressed to match my new earrings, which I showed in a vlog last week, which I really love. Not everybody's cup of tea, I'm sure, but I absolutely love them. Today, reading vlog, or book recommendations. I don't know what I'm going to call it. It's all about reading anyway. This has been a requested video. Not a lot, but several of you have asked me to do some book recommendations, and one very helpful viewer, whose name I can't remember, so I do apologise, suggested some questions to answer in a video all about reading. So without further ado, let's get into it. I've always been an avid reader ever since a child. I love reading. At periods of my life I have read less because I've been busier and I've not prioritised it, but I'm right back onto the reading wagon this year. Particularly, I'm pleased to say, when I first started my full-time eBay business, I didn't have time to read. I was all consumed by that, so my reading dropped off a little bit, but the last couple of years it's back again, and I'm really enjoying reading again now. So happy to be able to share recommendations and so on with you guys. I'm vaguely thinking, it's been an idea that's bubbling around, about doing some sort of YouTube book club with some of you guys, reading a book a month or every 2 months or something, and then discussing it. We could maybe have a Facebook group where we discussed it, or I don't know. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, because it is. I used to belong to a real life book group, and I gave it up. They changed the time. It wasn't in the evening anymore, it was during the day, and it was difficult for me to get to, but I really did enjoy that. And I think book clubs are great in that they make you read books that you wouldn't necessarily pick up yourself. So I think from that point of view I really enjoyed it. I found some books that I really enjoyed that I would never have chosen myself necessarily. So yeah, let me know if that's something you're interested in. Anyway, 2.5 minutes and I haven't even started on this. I've made notes today because there's lots of points that I want to make and things I want to say and lists and stuff, and so if I'm looking down too much I apologise, but I can't remember this level of information at my great age. I can't keep it all in my brain. So what type of books do I enjoy reading? Quite a vast array really. I suppose what I mainly read is what you'd call women's fiction, not necessarily chick lit, although there's nothing wrong with chick lit at all, I should say. I'm no book snob whatsoever. Chick lit I tend to think of as lighter books with a sort of comic element, and I went through a period of really enjoying those, and I just don't so much as I've got older, so I tend not to read so many of those, although I have enjoyed them in the past. But yeah, women's fiction I would say is what I read the most of. I love a psychological thriller, a good one. That's been the sort of most fashionable genre of books, hasn't it, for a few years. And yeah, I do like a good psychological thriller, so especially something that keeps me guessing. This new sort of genre, domestic noir I think they call it, I really like that as well. Sort of slightly black, family type novels. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm not making sense there, but yeah, I really enjoy this. I enjoy autobiographies and biographies very much, as long as it's someone I'm interested in, you know. Standard, obviously. And I particularly enjoy novels that are set abroad or have a travel element in them. I particularly enjoy reading those when I'm on holiday, and if I can find one that matches up to the place I'm on holiday in, even better. But I also really enjoy books set in World War II. I'm fascinated by both World Wars actually, but particularly in World War II, and any novel set in World War II I really enjoy. I've read quite a lot over the last few years and really enjoyed those. And the words really enjoy, we could do this video as a drinking game with the words really enjoy. Take a drink every time I say those. The last genre I just wanted to touch upon is something that I'm sort of fairly new to, and it's dystopian fiction. Don't like anything sci-fi. Sci-fi is not my thing at all, whether it's television, film or books. Don't like it at all. But dystopian, sort of set in the future, post-apocalyptic type stuff I do quite enjoy, and I suppose some would say that is sci-fi, but yeah, I've just been poking my toe into the that sort of area. I've got one that's slightly that recommendation for you a bit later on. Next, I want to talk about some of my favourite authors. I should say I'm going to list all this stuff down in the description box, so anything you miss or you want more information on, go down there. There's clickable links and all sorts in that description box. Authors that I love, and I've made a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not going to talk about them all in great detail because otherwise we are all going to be here all day. But let's start with Jodi Picoult and Diane Chamberlain, who are 2 American authors who both have that storytelling gift, so easy to read and you get really involved in their stories. And they write, I would say, books based around ethical dilemmas and moral issues and that sort of thing, and they've both got massive back catalogues. When I was researching for this video and I was going through all my 5-star reads on GoodReads, I'll come back to GoodReads in a bit, so many of them were by these 2 authors that I couldn't not mention them. And this list of authors I'm giving you are authors that I will actively seek out anything new that they write, and I've read almost everything that they've written, so they really are my favourites. Lisa Jewell is another one. I've read every single book she's ever written, and she must have a big back catalogue by now. I reckon probably 20 novels, something like that. Her writing has really evolved over the period that I've been reading her books. I want to say she's been writing for 20 years, maybe a little bit longer. And she started off sort of chick litty, and her writing has grown up to, she writes quite good psychological thriller now, books with a mystery element to them and very readable. Highly recommend her. Probably my favourite of her books is The House We Grew Up In. That's a really lovely one. Adele Parks is another author similar to Lisa Jewell, in that her books have changed from when she first started writing. I've been reading her books over a long period of years. She started out writing sort of chick litty books and it has developed from there. She did write a couple of historical novels which I have to say I didn't get on with, but everything else she's written I've loved, and I'd highly recommend any of her books. Lucy Clarke and Emily Barr. Emily Barr hasn't written anything for a while, but she does have quite... Actually, that's not true. She's been writing young adult fiction, which I don't particularly enjoy, so I haven't read any of that. But her original writing, or her... She must have about 10 or 12 books, I guess, for adults, all of which have a great travel element in them. I really, really like those. And Lucy Clarke, more recently, is another one who has a sort of travel element, not in all her books, but in a lot of them, and very, very enjoyable, sort of quite slightly mysterious, thrillery, travel-y books. Great description, Caroline, well done. This is why I don't make many book videos, because my description and reviewing is awful. And the final author on my list of authors that I love is Kristen Hanna, who is a relatively new to me author, although again she has a back catalogue of books. She wrote a book that is coming, that I will talk about a bit in a minute, but I read a book recently of her set in Alaska back in the 70s, which is absolutely brilliant. Really enjoyed it. She writes across a variety of subjects and places, and everything I've read of hers I've really enjoyed. Very well researched. Right, next I want to talk about where I get books from. I tend to read on my Kindle these days. I was one of those people who always said, oh, I'll never have a Kindle, I can't bear the thought of not having a real book in my hands. The joy is in holding a book. Changed completely. I got a Kindle and I've never looked back. The reason I mainly read on Kindle now is because I need glasses to read, and I don't have to use glasses with the Kindle because I can change the font size, which is brilliant. It's also really light to hold in bed and it's just convenient. I really love it. I'm a complete convert. So I was asked where I get books from and where I get book recommendations from. I track everything I read on GoodReads. I will put my GoodReads link below if you want to follow me or friend me or whatever it is you do on GoodReads. And the people who I follow on GoodReads read a lot of the similar books to me, so I get recommendations from their feeds. I really love GoodReads, it's a great website actually. I also get recommendations from a couple of book groups that I'm in on Facebook. I will link those below as well. Where else? From friends, from YouTube videos, from Instagram, all sorts of different places. And I will then add the books onto my wish list on Amazon. If I see something I think I want to read. My wish list is about, oh god, I think there's about 400 books on my Amazon wish list. Probably more if I'm honest. Yeah, so I'll add them all onto there, and then I use a website, again I'll link it below, called eReader IQ, where you can track the price of books you're watching. Kindle books, this is, not real books. And when the price drops, you get a notification email. So when the price of anything on my wish list drops to 99p, that is when I will buy them and get all my books for 99p. I don't think I've got anything that I've paid more than 99p for on my Kindle for absolutely ages, unless it's one of my favourite authors, in which case I will splash out a little bit more. But yeah, that's how I buy my books. When I was reading real books, I used to get lots from charity shops and second-hand, and there's quite often a second-hand bookstall outside Tesco's and all that sort of thing. But now I read Kindle books. This eReader IQ website is absolutely brilliant. I highly recommend that. I was asked if I use the local library. I absolutely love my local library. When I was reading real books, and even after I got my Kindle, I would reserve books that I wanted to read in the local library. Unfortunately, they put the reservation price up from 50p to £1, so it's now equal price to what I pay to buy books on the Kindle, so I tend not to use that anymore with the local library. I can't get books for my Kindle from the local library. We don't have the facility, although I think you can get ebooks but not compatible with Kindle. If anybody knows anything about that, let me know. I think maybe it differs in different areas, not sure. But yeah, I do use the local library. When I fancy going in and getting some new recipe book or books about crochet or recipes or cooking or health or anything I'm into, I will quite often go in there and just get an armful of all sorts of different books just to have a flick through of a weekend. And I think libraries are a great facility and we should all use them, because if we don't, they will have a good excuse to close even more of them, won't they? Now, I've got 4 book recommendations for you of books I've read recently. I've tried to make them all a little bit different. But first of all, I was also asked what my favourite ever books are. That is so hard to answer, but I've written down 5 which I would say are highly recommended, that I still remember years on from reading them. I'm not going to go into details on this purely because of time, and I don't want to be here all day or keep you here all day. I will link them below in the description box, but I'm going to tell you the name, the author and what they're about just roughly. And you can go and find more information if you think it's something that's interesting, that you would be interested in. First one is Codename Verity by a lady called Elizabeth Wine. It is set in World War II, about a female spy who is imprisoned, and her story from there. So I'm trying not to give too much away. Absolutely brilliant. Read it last year. There's also a sequel. Probably the second best book I've ever read about World War II. First best one is The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. If you haven't read this, go and read it. It's absolutely brilliant. Again, World War II set mostly in France, this one. Just really good. A psychological thriller. This book probably is called I Let You Go. It's by Claire McIntosh, and it probably had the biggest ever what the fuck moment twist in the middle of it, of any book I've ever read. Stuff of legend. Another absolutely brilliant thriller, really dark, really creepy, really page-turny, Into the Darkest Corner by Elizabeth Haynes. And one of my favourite books ever from, I probably first read it, I don't know, 25 years ago, maybe a little bit less. Rachel's Holiday by Marian Keyes, which is a sort of darkly comic one of her novels about the Walsh family. If you know Marian Key, she's written many novels about them, but brilliant book, loved it. Right, let's move on to some book recommendations of books I've read recently. As I said, I've got 4. They're all slightly different. The first one is called Desi Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I read this on holiday. It's written in a really unusual way. It's written as interviews with different people and their sort of memories. You know those sort of Channel 4 documentaries about a band from days gone by, or a person or a film or something, and people are talking about their memories of it? It's kind of like that. Anyway, this book is called Desi Jones and the Six. They were a band in the late 60s, early 70s. It is said that this book is based loosely around Fleetwood Mac, although obviously it is fiction. Fleetwood Mac are one of my favourite bands of all time, so obviously that connection was quite good, quite interesting to me. But I just loved it. It was it just perfectly captured the place and the time, and the characters in it were brilliant. I loved the way that everybody remembered different incidents, or in different ways, how something would happen. They remembered it in different ways. It was sort of all the members of the band and people around the band, and just absolutely brilliant book. So different and so engaging and really entertaining, and I gave it 5 stars. And I should say it was absolutely full of everything you'd expect from the late 60s, early 70s and a rock band in America. Glamour, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all of that and more. My next recommendation is completely different. It's a sort of family story, a bit of a heartbreaker. It's called Not My Daughter by Kate Hewitt. And I'd never heard of Kate Hewitt before, but I looked her up and she's got loads and loads of other novels, so I must dip into some of those at some point. But this particular book is about a couple called Millie and Matt, a married couple who have been trying unsuccessfully to have a baby for a long time, and they are categorically told that they will not be able to have a child of their own. And Millie's best friend Anna and Matt's brother Jack offer to become donors for them to have a baby. And it's, I don't want to say any more than that because I will give it away, but it's such a brilliantly written book. Everything everybody does is so believable, and all the emotions they feel so real. It's very compelling, it's heart-wrenching, really powerful, really gripping. But I think the most important takeaway I have from this book was how there are moments of joy, even in the face of absolute devastation. There are moments of joy. Really highly recommend this. Again, it's a 5-star read. It didn't actually make me cry, although it was close, but it is quite a heartbreaking book, so if you're not up for it, you'd have to be in the right frame of mind to read it. It's a bit of a tearjerker, I'd say. The next recommendation is The Marriage Pact, The Marriage Pact even, by Michelle Richmond. This was really different, really good, a little bit dystopian. If you're into something a little bit about cults, you will probably like this. It's centred on a married couple, Alice and Jake, who are newlyweds. They're not young newlyweds. I think they're in their mid-30s, and they've just got married, obviously, as they're newlyweds. They're both successful, they have a nice home, they have a nice life, and they're very excited to have just got married. And they've received an unusual wedding gift from a colleague of Alice's, and it turns out to be that he's a member of this organisation called the Pact, which is based upon the principles of staying married and staying happily married. They're worried about the fact that marriages break up so easily these days, and they've made this organisation. And Alice and Jake are really keen on this, and they look into it a bit and they think, yeah, we'll get on board with this. And then things start happening, and all is not as it seems, and the pact is not what it seems at all. And it's really exciting, this book, very twisty turny, lots of intrigue and excitement, and yeah, it's really good. Great ending as well, really enjoyed the ending of that book. The final book is one that I've just finished this week. It's called Anatomy of a Scandal by Sarah Vaughan, and it's really well written and very of its moment. It's fairly recently published, this book, I think, and it's a courtroom drama basically, around an MP, minister in fact, who has been accused of rape. It's set in a dual time frame. I like a dual time frame novel, and it flips back and forth between the court case, which is happening currently in London, and the life at Oxford University in the late 90s. Sorry, the early 90s. It's 93 actually. Some great characters in this book, and alternate chapters are written in different people's points of view. The female characters are really interesting, really well written. That the courtroom drama gives you an excitement of what's going to happen, you know, how's it going to turn out. And I think it's interesting to see things from people's different points of view. It's very much of its time in that it's really about the abuse of power by those in a position of power. Elitism, sense of entitlement, all that sort of thing, and it explores quite well this situation, and does feel very of the moment. So again, another good one to get your teeth into. That I really enjoyed. I had some late nights sitting up reading that. That is it. I've gone on for 23 minutes. I was really hoping I could cut that down. Perhaps I'll cut it down in the editing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any book recommendations, please let me know. I always love to get recommendations from other people. If you've enjoyed this video, again, let me know. I'd like to make more book recommendations videos, and so I'll see how it goes down. And again, about the book club idea, that is something that's sort of fizzing away, perhaps for winter time. Have a nice cozy book club reading type thing going on. Yeah, let me know. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you read any of the books and you enjoy them, and yeah, all the information in the description box below. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.